Welcome to Build Your Perfect College List, Module 4, where we're going to talk about data sources. Thus far, we've taken you through 3 very important steps. Module 1, we discussed the financial fit factors your family should consider when it comes to putting a college list together. In Module 2, we talked about the academic fit factors for your student and for your family relative to the potential for your student to be admitted, but also relative to making sure that the academic environment at the schools your child's considering are those that will help your student be in a position to achieve their greatest result. And then in Module 3, we talked about non-academic fit factors, all the other things that describe the community, the atmosphere, the activities, and the support from a non-academic perspective that your student might need to assess properly and make sure that they are on a track for happiness and future success at the colleges they're considering. All of those factors are important things, and we showed you different ways that you can start researching some of those and finding out additional information and identifying whether or not you're on track or if you need to do a little bit more research. But the question always comes up, where do we do that research? There are a lot of resources out there, but how do you make sense of them, and how do you know which ones to use versus which ones to ignore? Well, Module 4, Data Sources, we are going to attempt to help you take the next step and utilize and find resources that we suggest and we recommend to get you to that next level of your research and get to confirm the criteria that you, your family, and your student have identified thus far. So Module 4 goals, we're going to try to help you identify and understand the right data sources for you to do the research and try to confirm and verify the information that you've found thus far. There are many, many data sources. All you have to do is go to Google and put something in the search bar, and you will get resource upon resource, list upon list. It could definitely be overwhelming. We would like to help you to identify resources that over the years we have found successful and that families have enjoyed at various different levels. So you save time, effort, and money going towards the actual resources that are best for you to find the information you are truly looking for. Regardless of the options we provide or we suggest, it is definitely usually recommended that you use multiple sources to verify and confirm the data and your findings. You will find that it's very likely that despite you looking at information for a similar school, you might get contrasting information or results. If that's the case, don't worry about it. Obviously, document it, and that's where you want to vet it out with additional resources and or, as we've tried to encourage you from the very beginning of this course, to discuss it with the appropriate college resource and department at the college your child is considering to actually confirm your assumptions and or your findings. So let's talk a little bit about data sources. People react to data differently. Some people are really into data. Other people get intimidated by it, sometimes overwhelmed. It's very likely that if you're like me, you can feel like this completely. All these things going on in your mind, and then you start digging and digging and digging, and all of a sudden you're 7 layers into the onion, and you say, wait, what was I looking for in the first place? Is this even the right resource? It's definitely something that all people are vulnerable to doing. So what we'd like to do here is give you specific resources to start with, and obviously you can add on any others that you think might be helpful or that you have found conducive to your research that you are doing with your family and with your student. So there's a lot of sources out there, but we have to know which ones apply to you into your family situation best, so that way you don't waste time, effort, and money. And by the way, we say money in two capacities. We're talking about money in the fact that obviously time is money. We don't want you to spend hours upon hours upon hours of doing research, trying to find the right tools. So we're trying to save you that time to go to a very focused, pointed direction of databases and resources that we suggest for you. But in addition, there are a lot of free resources out there where you don't need to spend money to get access to information. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about money. Your time, as well as the potential to find additional resources where people are trying to charge you money for access to that information. Regardless of what you use online, it's very important to utilize the school sources, the college-specific sources, as well as independent sources. You'll see as we went through the other modules, we brought up a freshman profile for a specific school. There are school sources that your school, meaning your high school, might have available that you absolutely can take advantage of as well. But there should be a combination of multiple sources that you use to, again, vet out the information that you're learning and make sure that you're on the right track. Don't depend on any one resource alone. That's the bottom line. You want to make sure you can trust the data. And by that, we need to make sure that you understand what it is you're searching for. And unfortunately, sometimes that's going to require you to read the small type, what the assumptions are based on. And we talked about that relative to ratings and rankings as an example. But make sure you look at the data in the context it is being presented to you. And again, you always want to confirm your assumptions or your findings with the actual school resources. So much out there. You can definitely get overwhelmed. Data can help, but it also can mislead if you use the wrong criteria, which is why we save this as the last module before we sum it all together and bring everything to a conclusion, because it's very important that you identify your criteria from a financial, academic, and non-academic perspective first, so you know what it is you're looking for. That way you can be pointed with your effort and the amount of data that's out there and not get overwhelmed. A lot of people can get caught up in data versus real research. And again, this has been said multiple times, and I apologize for repeating it once again, but data is great, but you need to validate that data with different departments at the colleges that your student is thinking about, as well as talking to students to make sure that what you're seeing and being presented with online is an accurate depiction of the reality at that given school. The key to understanding Module 1 to 3 is making sure that you know what you're looking for. And again, that's why we left data as Module 4, because we wanted you to go through the process as a family to identify your important criteria first, to kind of let you filter through all the information that's out there and focus on the things that you think are most important. So it is and can be time consuming. So even with the data sources that we are providing to you, you can definitely get lost and spend literally hours doing this. And if you have the time, that's great. But again, the resources we're giving you is not an exhaustive list. However, it's what we feel is a very efficient list to give you access to the things that you probably will need in order to take your research and to build your perfect college list to the next level. So here are a couple of different data sources, and you can write some of these down, but we're also going to be talking about some of them, and several of them are also on your worksheet if you have already printed out your worksheet. Here are some resources that we suggest, and at the end of this module, we will be going to a couple of these to show you the information that's presented. Already in Module 1, 2, and 3, we have used the third resource, which is collegeboard.org. In this module, we're actually going to use a couple of different data sources. Other thing to notice is the last resource, the Road to College Insights, is a paid-for product. However, it is something that is very comprehensive, continually updated, and something you might want to consider. It's not something you have to purchase or have to have access to. However, if after you research it and trial it, you think that it might be helpful, it's relatively inexpensive compared to other things that are out there, as all Road to College services and products try to be. Some additional resources and websites that you might want to consider are, obviously, we talked about this before, but college-specific websites. It's very important to go and do the research at the colleges that your student is considering. Believe it or not, YouTube has a lot of great information out there. It's not just funny videos of people singing, dancing, and doing classic fails. You can see students give information sessions and tours or talk about a specific activity that takes place if you do the right research. Campus Reel, UVisit, and campus tours are all ways that you can do virtual tours, and sometimes they also have virtual info sessions and other things provided at these sites. In addition, some of you may be aware of a school resource called Naviance. If your high school does not have it, do not worry. You're not missing a whole heck of a lot, in my opinion. However, if you have access to Naviance at your child's high school, what I usually suggest is using that as what I call an aftermarket tool. And what I mean by that is, do your best to put your college list together based upon the modules and the steps that we have taken you through thus far. And when it comes to competitiveness and you're trying to weigh your students' ability to get accepted to the schools they're interested in, you can then overlay Naviance, which has very high school specific information and high school specific information only, to kind of confirm whether or not your classification of a school as a reach, a match, or a safety is consistent with the way that college looks at your child's high school. So taking that a step further, just to be very clear, Naviance is a system that provides information only on the high school that your student is attending. Obviously, the world of admissions for your student is going to be much more vast, and the competition is much more vast than just your student's high school. That's one of the reasons why I believe Naviance is helpful, but definitely not comprehensive. It doesn't take into account affordability. It doesn't take into account specific majors. So it doesn't touch on a lot of the things that this program, the Build Your Perfect College List program, has taken you through and helped you identify. But based on entering your students' GPA and ACT and SAT scores, it will, school by school, show you on what they call a scattergram where your student is relative to other students who applied to that same school. Again, it's okay, it's directional, it's not as comprehensive, but it can be used as a way to verify that your classification of a school as a reach, match, or safety is consistent with the way colleges are seeing past students from your student's high school. CapX and Niche are very nice resources online to be able to do college search as well. Ask, again, as we've discussed before, your high school for the high school's profile so you understand what they are reporting to colleges, and make sure it's comprehensive in the way that it represents your child well as, again, looking at the college's incoming freshman profile. That's where you will get specific information that is definitely going to be relevant to your student, and or to compare your student on a much more granular one-to-one basis. As always, we always talk about homework, so let's see what we have here. Please complete the worksheets in Module 4. And basically what you're going to be doing, we'll look at them in a second, is you're going to be taking the criteria you've already identified as critical, and then you're going to identify which data sources out there help you to confirm and get further information on those criteria. Research various data sources as we suggest. Pick the ones or utilize the ones that you find are most user-friendly, and or include the information that's most applicable to the criteria you and your family have set. Document your findings for additional discussions internally as a family with your student, but also with the colleges, as we've always tried to emphasize throughout this program. Then identify gaps, as we've also discussed after each module, as well as potential ways to fill the gaps. Ways to fill the gaps might mean that you verify things with the college, with students who apply or are attending, and then try to make sure that you go back and re-evaluate the criteria to make sure it's really critical and or a driving factor. Again, always contact various college offices, admissions, financial aid, career placement, academic departments, etc., and speak to students currently attending the college. Again, we know this is repetitive. However, you are not going to hurt your child's potential to get admitted, nor are they when they ask the questions. By asking questions and learning more about the college. That is the whole point, but way too many families and students, for whatever reason, don't feel comfortable asking specific questions, and therefore they don't learn the true vibe of what the school is actually about. So what we're going to do now is let's look at the worksheet. The worksheet, again, has some of the data sources that we highlighted in the presentation. So therefore, again, you don't need to write them down, but these are brief descriptions of what they are, and you can definitely look online to see if they're helpful for you and provide you information that you're interested in. In addition, when we talk about putting it all together, we're asking that you put each school that your student is considering in the columns, and then this is just an example, but we have identified some criteria that might be important to you that you might want to think about. You can obviously feel free to replace any of this with specific things that you are interested in as a family or specific to your student, or you can add to this. But the bottom line is what we want you to be able to do is to be able to document the information, and this is going to further help you and your students to identify whether or not a school has all of the characteristics, support, and resources that you think are important for your student to be happy and also be set up for their achievement. But also, it will also let you look at this in a capacity of trying to again measure whether a school is a reach or a match or a safety from an academic perspective as well as from a financial perspective. So now let's take a look at a couple of the resources that are available. This is an example of one, and we just picked a couple to give you different flavor and views, but this is Campus Real, and you'll see right here campusreal.org, and what we clicked on was all colleges, and it gives you then a list, an alphabetical list of A to Z of different schools you can think about and research. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these because that would take forever, but let's just pick a school and see where we go. Here is Amherst College, which is in Amherst, Massachusetts. And then you can A Day in the Life with Lily. Lily will then take you through as you click Begin Tour and realize some tours obviously are better than others. You might like the student that's taking you through. You may not think that they're providing you the information that you need. But again, this is a resource. And you see, talks about her from an academic perspective. It talks about her living environment. It talks through walking through campus. And then it also talks about some other aspects of things. And you'll see here again, you can look at different things. You can look at the dorms. and it provides different information. You can go above here and look at the campus. And of course, there's advertising with everything. But you can have Lily explain to you what the campus is about and what the campus is like. And you can look at dining and food, which, if you're like me, food is very, very important. So, and you can do this school by school. You can do it by level of school, meaning competitive schools, most selective schools. You can do it by obviously big schools, small schools, liberal arts schools, and even by region in the country. So that's Campus Reel, and that's just one example of the information you get to have access to. And again, as you watch these with your student, you should be also taking notes to make sure that the Lily or whoever else is doing the tours is actually answering the questions that you have. Here is thecollegedata.com. That was another resource on your list. This is not as visual. However, it's got a lot of great information relative to a school. And here we have Emory University. So we changed the university just to give you a different look. And we're looking at Emory. And you'll see, obviously, there's overview, admissions, money matters, academics, campus life, and students. So you'll see, again, we have academic, we have financial, we have more academic, we have non-academic factors. So this site includes all the things that we've talked about, Module 1 through 3. I'm not going to take you through all this because obviously you can do it on your own. But a lot of the information here are things that you may have found in other data sources, as well as then there's other things that might be a little bit different. Remember, we talked about the calendar system and what a quarter system, a trimester, or a semester. That's something that we talked about in Module 2, as well as looking at the surrounding area and the makeup of the school. You can go through this at your leisure, and you can find all the information that you are interested in relative to a school and balance it against what you have seen in the data and research that you have done. The last one that we're going to show is College Navigator. And you see that's another one that is going to be, it was on your, it was in the PowerPoint, but it's also going to be on your worksheet. Now, I don't know if you can tell right away, but the reason I included this as well is because you see the difference just in presentation. See, for me, not being a data person, this might intimidate me a little bit. It doesn't look quite as user-friendly in my opinion, and it looks very, very involved and intricate. Now, for some of you who love data, this is going to be right up your alley. Now, please understand, I'm not saying I would not use this. I would, but this would be a little bit more challenging for me because I tend to be a little bit more visual. So, you know, the Campus Reel was right up my alley, but I understand we have to know more information. And obviously I do that for my students, and I would do that for my own child. But this presentation alone is very different. And here we happen to pick Baylor University. Okay, but you can pick any types of school. You can put the name of the school here. You can do different things here as far as the type of school it is, or the location, or the types of majors, or any of those types of things. Okay, and I'll just click on one thing here. If we click on admissions, you see that now a lot of numbers and checkboxes and all kinds of things kind of come up here. Very good information presented in a different way, a little bit more, again, Excel spreadsheet-ish. Doesn't mean it's not a great resource, because it is. But again, it depends on the type of person you are as to whether or not this is going to be comfortable for you, or you'd rather use another source. So these are all examples of what we were talking about relative to taking the next steps and trying to validate the criteria you have established in Module 1 through 3 by using data sources that are pointed, that provide you access to various information from various different sources that will give you different potential perspectives, but allow you to use multiple ways to validate and confirm that you're on the right track and the research that you've done has been accurate and will get you to building your perfect college list. So take your time going through this. Make sure that you identify, again, which resource is best for you to meet and validate the criteria that you, your student, and your family are looking for. And by the way, as what happens all the time when we do research, two things. First off, by doing the research and looking at these resources, you may come up with additional questions and additional criteria. That's fine. That's actually a great way to make progress through the process. In addition, again, I don't want to be too repetitive here, but I cannot emphasize enough. It can also bring to light what you need to verify with the college specifically, whether it be somebody who works in a given department, whether it be the freshman profile, newsletters, as we discussed, that talk about the community, the atmosphere, and what they're doing to support their students, and also students who are currently attending. So good luck in your data farming out process. Utilize and check out all the resources that we suggest, as well as, by the way, feel free to identify your own. But these are the sources we feel are going to help you be most effective and efficient and save you a ton of time, effort, and money. Good luck, and we'll see you at the next module.